Hello, hello, folks. This is Kenny with Just the Right Angle. Just a moment. I'm now live on Rumble. You can also check me out on live stream. I am actually putting in Podbean right now. So now that I can hopefully get these done, this will be recorded also on Ocean so that you can listen to this at a later time. Lots to talk about, lots of things that have been going on recently. There have been lots of stories involving political items. I try to focus mainly on that. For those who don't know, a lot of people are, of course, getting ready to end the political season because they're getting ready for Christmas and whatnot. But legislative bills have been filed. Probably the biggest thing that's going on right now is the nation is getting ready to go through and pass a spending budget. And I'm going to play for you first off from Marjorie Taylor Greene, who talks about this. This CR is turning into a 3-month omnibus that will result in more Democrats than Republicans voting for farmers and victims of natural disasters as pawns to fund an overbloated pet project-filled disaster. And much rather have farmers and victims of natural disasters and continue a budget already voted against, funding foreign governments and foreign wars. Here, I'll just play this from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Hopefully this will.
Well, it's really turning into, it's not a CR, which is a continuation of the budget. It's turning into an omnibus is what it sounds like, where they're packing, and everybody's packing in what they want here and there, and using the pressure and the situation of the government shutdown. Of course, tragically, farmers are being dangled. Americans that suffered through natural disasters, they're being dangled with disaster relief. And I think that's incredibly unfair. And you know, think about it like this: if this is going to turn into a 3-month omnibus, basically, then why aren't we doing the heavy lifting on, the upcoming debt ceiling situations that we have to deal with in March, government funding? But no, and we don't have any bill text. I have no idea what's in the CR except just basic things that we were told in there. And then reading often you guys' X accounts because somehow y'all magically know things oftentimes more quicker than I do. But reality is there is no CR text out yet. We don't know what's in it. And here we are. What is today? Tuesday? Yeah. Okay. So that's it.
What is the mood of the conference? I mean, obviously you have been critical of Speaker Johnson in the past, but you seem to have, given him a little bit grace years and somebody else is running against him. What are your sort of thoughts on how he's handled the situation?
Well, I haven't been in any of the conversations on building the CR out. So I haven't been involved in that process. So I can't criticize not being in the room. I mean, that's fair. But here we are today on Tuesday. We haven't seen any bill text. We're supposed to fly out on Thursday. We've had a long time to deal with it. So it's the same, basically same pattern of behavior. And here we are now.
So again, folks, we've seen this before. We see this almost every year. The powers that be behind closed doors decide to make a budget. They either don't release it or they release it at the last second. And then everyone's supposed to vote on it. If they don't, they hate children, or in this case, farmers and victims of natural disasters. We have seen this song and dance. It's sadly, it's the way that budgets are being done now. Of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene's one of the few people that's actually fighting against this sort of thing. That's why she and others like her are being elected. And that's the problem. In terms of politically fixing this nation, it's going to have to be done by reforming the Republican Party. That's why I have the thumbnail of what I had, which was of Margot Herzl, who should have been our chair for the Republican Party of Arkansas. if our Republican Party had adhered to the rules of the state convention, she most likely would have been elected chair. And there's a lot of people that have talked about primarying. This guy right here is just a blogger. Any Republican who votes for this spending boondoggle is getting primaried. Reindels who expose himself with a single vote. We're not messing around. Again, it is very difficult to primary these people, especially when the deck is stacked against you. I'm sorry, folks. My phone just acted up. What a primary, we got a primary. Primary is where you kick out Republicans. Of course, Democrats always vote for these things because they're all for big spending. By the way, this spending goes to things like foreign wars, pork barrel spending, to fake corporations, which things that Democrats pretend to be against, but actually aren't. And so I don't know what, and you can see what else is going on. There'll be all kinds of distractions. I think the drone thing is a distraction. This is another distraction. They're going after Matt Gaetz. They've been attacking him for years regarding ethics, just like they did with Trump. If y'all follow what happened, the legal stuff with Trump, you know that he was, they tried to charge him with everything under the sun. And it didn't go anywhere. It rarely ever does. It's just a little trumped up charge that's then later on kicked out. If y'all want to see the rest of this and other things of Marjorie Taylor Greene, let me go ahead and post this in the chat so y'all can see this. Yeah, basically she told it like it is. She's one of the few people that do. But again, you need to force reform in these Republican county committees on a local and state level. Now, in January, Arkansas electors county committees are going to have elections for officers, chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer. You need to find out who those people are. If you want to have a chance of primarying, people on a federal level or even on a state level, you need to have conservative people in those committees, because the uniparty folks, the Democrats and the Rhino Republicans, are going to have the money behind them to stay in power. And they're going to change the rules and cheat in order to stay in power as well. I mean, right now, the Republican Party of Arkansas is not a conservative organization. It has a lot of conservatives in it, but they don't have a voice. They are being cheated by a cowardly executive committee who yesterday, some of whom took part in the electoral college process, but let's be honest, they only did so because they had to. I saw next to nothing in terms of trying to help Trump win the election from the Republican Party of Arkansas apparatus. I did see a little bit of help. I participated in that from the 1st district. But as far as trying to get people involved in some way, shape, or form in helping in elections, it was next to nothing in terms of outreach. Matter of fact, I even, yes, the Electoral College thing, which happened, yes, the Republican Party on their schedule of events. It wasn't even. And so that's, let alone any way, like I said, to help Trump, because they're not really for Trump. They just pretend to be. Just like Asa Hutchinson did. If you know who Asa Hutchinson, he was our former governor. He negotiated to get a Trump endorsement, pretended to be supporting him, and then a few years later, he's running against him. Pitiful attempt president, which was just basically a donor-funded tour of the parts of the USA. And now he's either going to work for Walmart or go work for Communist China. I don't know. Doesn't matter. What I've just posted is Oh, I'm sorry. I just posted the thing from earlier. I need to post is this right here. This is the link that you can share with other people. Copy this, take it, and send it off to everybody. Text it. Tweet it. Send it by any means you can think of. And again, I actually just, one of the reasons I'm a little bit delayed is I just reactivated my Parler account. Parler was, for a while, Parler was down. It was completely down. It had collapsed. It was in shambles. And I recently saw that Parler had come back up. It may have been up for a year. I just didn't know it. But since Parler's back up, I went ahead and reactivated my account. It's supposed to be an alternative to Twitter back when Twitter was run by leftists, and I've like True Social and some other places. I'm also on Gab and MeWe, which are supposed to be alternatives to Facebook and YouTube. And more people are still going there because even though Twitter's been taken over by Elon Musk, there is still a lot of censorship or ways, shadow banning and other ways for people to not get their message out. So do go to this alternative website just to support those movements. I did look into what happened regarding the Wisconsin shooter. From what I understand, this was a mentally disturbed individual who decided on their own to go shoot up a school that was most likely disarmed. When you have God and guns in a nation, these things are far less likely to happen when you have God and guns, because you have people less likely to commit this act of evil, and if they do, you have people that are there to defend and stop it if it does happen. From what I understand from Dana Lesh, has stated that the person obtained the gun illegally. So we know that all these stupid gun laws, red flag laws, and other dumb laws that the left tries to stand on a coffin and purport and push for would not have stopped this, just like it wouldn't have stopped most of the other shooters. Most of the time with these mass shooters, the people that shoot up schools and kill kids, they are someone that the government should have locked away but didn't. Usually they're on some kind of medication. Usually there was like multiple warning signs. Oftentimes they get their guns through questionable means, like they're on debt up to their eyeballs, but then they get thousands of dollars worth of weaponry. Usually there's some kind of leftist ideology involved. And almost all the time there's usually some kind of hatred of the right. And this appears to be no different. So thoughts, prayers, and then arm people. And we need to do that. We're trying to do that in some schools here in Arkansas, but we need more. We need for teachers and staff to be able to protect children, so the next time the government fails to lock some crazy person up and they're on big pharma meds, they can be stopped. That's really what needs to happen with this and most of the other mass shootings. On a similar note, and speaking of stopping corruption, of course, one of the biggest crimes against the USA is the sending of illegal aliens into this country. And our own governor, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and some other governors say they will use National Guardsmen to help with the mass deportation. We have several thousand illegals here. We actually had an illegal alien death. I believe her name was Jennifer Morton, if I'm not mistaken. I have the video of her, about her, what happened with her on another broadcast. And so we definitely do have a huge illegal immigration problem, even though we're not on the border. But what is desperately needed is a way to kick illegals out, not just through the guard, but through what we call self-deportation laws. I heard that there was a state legislature that was going to do that. I don't know if that happened or not. You can go to the Arkansas legislature. Here, I'll read this for you. That's another story. Sadly, that's one of the problems with the news networks is they do a lot of pop-ups, so just ignore those. We do have a law that's supposed to cut off the funding to sanctuary cities, but so far that hasn't been enforced, and it needs to be, because Little Rock and North Little Rock are both issuing IDs to illegals. They're not declaring themselves sanctuary cities like some places are, but they are a haven for illegal immigration. They're just doing it in a much quieter way. And by the way, if you know where some people are being illegals are being dumped off, years ago I filmed an area I was told where the illegals are being dumped off via bus. There's companies that hire illegals. Let me know. Let everyone know. Oftentimes they infest these little towns and commit massive crimes. You saw what happened with the Haitians in Ohio, where they were eating the cats. But yeah, this is a statement released by the Republican Governors Association on December 11th. Says this: Republican governors who stand united in support of President Donald Trump's unwavering commitment to make America safe again by addressing illegal immigration crisis and deporting illegal immigrants who pose a threat to our communities and national security. Now, what they'll probably do is target those who have criminal records first, but they really need to target everyone. And again, there is a better way to do this. It's called self-deportation laws. Simply require proof of citizenship in order to get state benefits, in order to access our education system. Most illegals will pick up their stuff and leave on their own, and they will take their children with them. In 2019, undocumented immigrants, the illegals are not undocumented. About half of them don't even bother to get documents. They cross illegally. 58,000 of Arkansas's population. Now, we had last time we did a mass deportation was Operation Wetback, and it was very successful. It deported, I think, about a million illegals, and then I think about twice or three times that number left on their own. But of course, these clowns, they try to claim, well, it's going to cost taxpayers and take up to 16 years. That's an absolute lie. That is assuming that illegals will refuse to be deported. Once you cut off the welfare and once you start removing illegals, they will leave on their own. And by the way, under Operation Wetback, didn't take near as long. That was when many illegals actually did work and there wasn't a welfare state. So once you cut the welfare state and you enforce immigration law, illegals will leave on their own. And these folks at News Nation don't bother to factor that in. They just assume that it costs that all these illegals are going to have to be found and arrested and then transported. That's not what happens. Illegals will leave on their own. But you can see, Mississippi, Texas, Oklahoma, most of the red states are also joining this. And President Trump won in a landslide because of his promise to clean up the Biden-Harris administration failures, including the southern border. It was getting a lot better on the southern border when Trump was in office, and we saw what happened. When Biden was installed due to a fraudulent election, we saw what happened with the illegal immigration afterwards. So, folks, make sure that make sure that your state legislatures push for self-deportation laws wherever you are. Make sure that the laws are actually enforced. And if there is a court that tries to sabotage that effort, make sure that court gets defunded. And yes, that is a power of the government that is oftentimes that the government will pretend they don't have, that the legislature will pretend doesn't exist. Is they will claim that, oh, there's nothing we can do. The courts have issued an edict. There's nothing we can do. It's an absolute lie. They have the power of the purse. They just don't want to use it. And again, the second there is a self-deportation law, and when it gets pushed in the Arkansas legislature, I'll try to keep updates of when it's there and who you need to contact. Of course, it will be assigned to committees, and you can see who's the chair of the committee and members of the committee get those passed. But speaking of bad government officials, I want to talk about this. This was an outrage. Joe Biden, upon his leaving, has made many pardons. Of course, probably the most famous of which is who should have been in jail decades ago, but instead was allowed to party on, hang out with his friends, do all kinds of crooked deals. But this is somebody else who's just as evil. This is Jacqueline Mills, flanked by relatives. She defrauded a U.S.-funded food program for underprivileged children. So think about this. So you think about starving children. Oftentimes Democrats will use starving children. This was in 2017, December 6, 2017. This woman should be in 12 years in prison. She should have gotten more. She's stealing millions of dollars intended to feed children in low-income areas. Jacqueline Mills, 42, of Helena, West Helena, was convicted of 39 different counts, including wire fraud, bribery, and money laundering. She operated 34 sites providing meals as part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture program. Her trial proved that she submitted inflated numbers of meals served, and in some cases, no meals were served at all. 3 years of supervised release. She was also ordered to pay more than $3 million in restitution. $3 million. This woman became a multi-millionaire. And there's somebody else, Anthony Waits, sentence of 14.5 years. Mills and Waits stole millions of dollars intended for disadvantaged and hungry children, and one of the most egregious examples of fraud this office has prosecuted Highland. Well, guess what? Joe Biden, I guess while thinking about the poor black children that touched his hairy legs when he was a swimmer, decided to pardon or commute the sentence, rather, of this witch who stole millions of dollars from children. And I guarantee you, if this had been a Republican official, this would have been all over the news. Here, I'll post the link to this article right here so y'all can see this as well. Stole millions of dollars that they were able to find. May have stolen even more, but we don't know. That's just the stuff we know about. And usually when they find something that's actually been a lot more that they've stolen from, it's just, you can't, it's hard to find these people. And so that's the kind of stuff we're having to deal with. And again, a lot of local politics. Had somebody simply said, this person should have never been able to do this, but they were. Well, folks, I'm gonna have to take off. I gotta do some other things. I wanted to also show one other person here. Nathan Hughes, this poor guy, he's been sentenced. So while Biden is letting this crooked lady go, Nathan Hughes is being thrown in jail. So Nathan Hughes was one of the J6 people who was lured in by Ray Epps and other FBI operatives. He supposedly assaulted an officer. The FBI came up, put guns to his head, nearly killing him. Also, his girlfriend was held at gunpoint. This was and then of course Liberty Safe allowed let the FBI come in and take this guy's stuff. But there's that story there. Sorry, folks. I wish I could do more. Y'all follow me at Just the Right Angle for more updates. Y'all have a good day.